There are names in pop culture that flicker for a moment, then vanish. And then there are names that, even years later, continue to echo, ignite debates, and divide opinion. One of those names is Mia Khalifa. In the mid-2010s second, she entered the adult entertainment industry for only a matter of months. Yet in that incredibly short window, she became the most searched, most controversial, and most unforgettable figure in the world of adult films. Her fame was like an explosion. Overnight, she wasn't just another performer. She was the headline, the scandal, the conversation in homes, schools, and governments across the globe. But how does someone rise so quickly, so ferociously, and then burn out even faster? What makes Mia Khalifa unforgettable isn't just her career. It's the chaos that followed. She was threatened, denounced, shamed, and at the same time, idolized and mythologized. Politicians condemned her. Fans obsessed over her. The media couldn't stop writing about her. And Mia herself? She became trapped between the weight of instant global fame and the crushing stigma that refused to let her move forward. Think about it. How does a 1-year-old woman go from anonymity to global infamy in just a few months? What happens when millions know your name, but almost none know your truth? This is the story of Mia Khalifa, her meteoric rise, the scandals that nearly destroyed her, and her fight to reclaim her identity beyond the world that made her infamous. But before we dive into the controversies, let's first revisit that moment when she wasn't just famous, she was the most searched woman on the internet. It was 2014. The world of adult entertainment was saturated with countless performers, but few ever broke out into mainstream headlines. Then, almost out of nowhere, a young woman named Mia Khalifa stormed onto the scene. Within just 3 months, Mia Khalifa became the most searched performer on the planet. By the start of 2015, she was officially ranked #1 on the world's largest adult site. Think about that for a moment. A newcomer, active for only a handful of months, had eclipsed veterans who had been in the industry for years. Why? The answer lies in controversy. One of her early scenes featured her wearing a hijab. That single clip ignited a firestorm. Middle Eastern media exploded. Religious leaders denounced her. Death threats flooded in. And instead of silencing her name, the outrage only amplified her fame. Suddenly, Mia wasn't just an adult film actress. She was a global headline. She was on CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera. News anchors who had never once mentioned adult entertainment were now debating her choices live on television. Her fame became something bigger than the industry. She was called a symbol of rebellion, a victim of exploitation, a disgrace, a feminist icon depending on who you asked. And as the world argued, the numbers soared. Mia Khalifa became the most searched woman in the world, outpacing even mainstream celebrities like Kim Kardashian. But here's the shocking twist. Her career in adult films lasted less than 4 months. 4 months, and yet, the shadow of those few scenes has followed her for nearly a decade. Imagine it. While most performers fade into obscurity, Mia's brief presence cemented her as an internet legend, the kind of fame you can't erase, no matter how hard you try. But the question remains, how did a young woman from Lebanon, raised thousands of miles away from the spotlight, end up in an industry that would define her forever? To understand Mia Khalifa's rise, we need to rewind, back to her beginnings, back to the girl before the scandal, before the fame, before the world knew her name, long before the headlines, long before the controversy. There was just a young girl named Mia Khalifa, born in 993-inch Beirut, Lebanon. Her childhood was shaped by instability. Lebanon, in the 1992nd, was still recovering from years of civil war. Her family wanted something more: safety, opportunity, a chance for their daughter to grow up far away from conflict. And so, when Mia was just a teenager, her family immigrated to the United States. Settling in Maryland, for Mia, America was a new world, a new language, a new culture. But it wasn't easy. She has spoken about being bullied in school for her accent and her Middle Eastern background. She didn't fit the mold, and classmates made sure she knew it. Those experiences of alienation carved a deep mark. She was caught between two identities, too Western for Lebanon, too foreign for America. As she grew older, Mia leaned into Western culture to find acceptance. She got into sports, became a fan of American college football, and embraced a different lifestyle than the one her conservative family might have imagined. By her early 22nd, Mia was in college, studying history. To outsiders, she looked like any other student working part-time jobs to make ends meet. But beneath the surface, there was a tension, a young woman searching for independence, identity, and financial freedom. That tension led to a decision that would alter her life forever. While working at a fast food restaurant in Miami, Mia was approached by someone who introduced her to the world of adult entertainment. She was hesitant, but the promise of money, recognition, and perhaps a form of belonging was tempting. In 2014, Mia Khalifa entered the adult film industry. At just 21 years old, she had no idea that within weeks she would become not just another performer, but the face of the industry and the center of an international storm. But as history shows, when fame comes too quickly, it comes with a price. And Mia was about to discover just how steep that price would be. At first, it looked like Mia Khalifa had won the internet. She was young, beautiful, and suddenly the #1 name in the adult entertainment industry. But that fame was built on controversy. And controversy always comes with a cost. The infamous hijab scene didn't just make her famous, it made her a target. Almost overnight, Mia began receiving death threats from extremist groups. Politicians in the Middle East condemned her publicly. Clerics labeled her a disgrace. News channels debated her choices endlessly, as if she were a symbol of cultural war. And while the attention skyrocketed her popularity online, behind closed doors, Mia was terrified. She has since admitted she was only 21 years old and unprepared for the backlash. The threats weren't just digital, they seeped into her daily life. Her family, still living in Lebanon, felt the shame and danger of her decisions. Eventually, they cut ties with her, leaving Mia isolated. But the backlash didn't only come from overseas. In America, Mia struggled with the stigma that clings to anyone associated with adult films. Once she left the industry, after just 3 months, she found that society wasn't ready to let her move on. Potential employers saw her name and turned her away. Strangers harassed her in public. Even years later, she would lament, "I was never allowed to forget." He's a no as in power. Adding to the spiral was the contract dispute. Despite her global fame, Mia has revealed she made only around $12,000 from her adult films, a fraction of what the public assumed. Meanwhile, those clips remained online forever, racking up millions of views, owned and monetized by others while she saw nothing. The fame was hers, but the profit wasn't. For Mia, the weight became unbearable. She struggled with mental health issues, battled depression, and tried desperately to distance herself from the career that had defined her in the eyes of millions. But every attempt seemed futile. The internet never forgets. The rise had been meteoric. The fall was brutal. And the scars were deep scars, not just on her career, but on her identity, her family, and her mental health. But was this the end of Mia Khalifa's story? Or could she find a way to rewrite the narrative and reclaim her life? For years, Mia Khalifa's name was chained to a past she desperately wanted to leave behind. But today, the woman once known only as an adult film actress has rewritten much of her story. After leaving the industry in 2015, Mia shifted gears. She became a sports commentator, leveraging her passion for football and her bold personality. She appeared on shows, ran social media commentary, and built a new audience, one that saw her as more than just a headline from her past. But perhaps her biggest stage has been social media. With millions of followers on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, Mia has cultivated a new kind of fame. Instead of being defined by her short time in adult films, she became a social media personality, influencer, and activist. She speaks openly about her regrets, her trauma, and her mission to warn young women about the dangers of the industry. Financially, Mia has built stability, brand partnerships, OnlyFans content on her own terms, and influencer deals have grown her reported net worth to several $1 million. Unlike her past, this income is controlled by her, not by studios or corporations. In her personal life, Mia has faced ups and downs. She was briefly married young, divorced, and later married again, only for that relationship to end in separation. Most recently, she has been candid about dating, heartbreak, and the challenges of maintaining love while living under the shadow of her past. One of the most striking things about Mia today is her openness. She doesn't hide from the past, she confronts it. In interviews, she often emphasizes, "I want people to learn from my mistakes." She has become a voice for discussions about exploitation, mental health, and stigma, even if her presence still sparks heated debate. From Twitch streams to social activism, Mia Khalifa has proven that she is more than a 3-month career. She's a woman who has taken the world's judgment and turned it into a platform. But when history writes her name, how will it be remembered? As a symbol of controversy? Or as a story of survival and reinvention? Few stories in modern pop culture are as polarizing as Mia Khalifa's. Her name is recognized around the world. Yet ask 10 different people what it means, and you'll get 10 different answers. For some, she will always be the scandalous figure who shocked the world with just a handful of films. For others, she's the victim of an industry that profits endlessly, while performers carry the stigma for life. And for a growing number, she's the survivor who turned trauma into advocacy, refusing to let her past silence her voice. What makes Mia's legacy so complicated is how short her time in the industry was, and how long the shadow has lasted. Less than 4 months of work define nearly a decade of her life. And even today, no matter what she does, whether it's activism, social media, or business ventures, the first thing most people mention is still her past. That is the paradox of Mia Khalifa, a woman who achieved global fame without ever wanting it. A woman whose rise was meteoric, whose fall was brutal, and whose attempt to rebuild is still unfolding. The bigger question is, what does her story say about us? About how the internet treats people? About how society forgives or refuses to forgive? About how women, in particular, are judged for choices that men profit from? Mia Khalifa's story isn't just about one person. It's about fame in the digital age. Fame that can come overnight, without warning, Fame that can destroy as quickly as it elevates. So, when we look back at Mia Khalifa's life, do we see scandal? Do we see regret? Or do we see resilience? That answer depends on who you ask and perhaps on what you choose to believe. What do you think? Is Mia Khalifa forever trapped by her past? Or has she successfully rewritten her future?